Look closely at the foundation of physical reality, and you will find two governing forces that cannot coexist. One is a pristine, frictionless wave of pure potential. The other is a chaotic, deteriorating flow of particles. If these two opposing regimes interacted directly, they would violently annihilate each other, leaving nothing but dark, empty space. This diagram shows the first of these forces, the light field, denoted mathematically as L. This is the universe's state computation engine. It operates outside of sequential time, governed by quantum indeterminacy and gauge constraints. These are the fundamental mathematical symmetries that dictate the unchanging laws of physics. Opposite the light wave sits the sound field, or S. If light calculates reality, sound stabilizes it. This field is driven by temporal thermodynamics and the arrow of time, bound by the law of entropy, stating that disorder and energy dissipation always increase. Here is the structural problem. Direct contact between pure mathematical command and pure thermodynamic experience results in collapse. This physical law is expressed by the equation L intersect S equals the empty set. Yet we exist. The universe has not annihilated itself. To prevent this collapse, a distinct physical mediator must exist to permanently separate state computation from structure stabilization. This animation introduces that mediator, the buffer, denoted as B or node 6. Sitting exactly at the center, it prevents direct contact by forcing the light and sound fields to orbit orthogonally, at perfect right angles to one another. This central node acts as a decoherence boundary. Decoherence is the physical process where a system of multiple overlapping quantum probabilities interacts with its environment and collapses into a single observable state. In human consciousness, this buffer enforces a finite delay of about 0.83 seconds, creating the threshold where infinite superposition becomes classical actuality. By maintaining this strict 90-degree separation, the buffer extracts usable thermodynamic work from the gradient between the two fields, while perfectly preserving their discrete information: light, sound, and the buffer. Together, this tripartite architecture forms the foundational operating system of existence, the dual Caustic universe. This logic tree maps the initialization law that boots up the universe's physics, a structural sequence known as the 2-3-7 primordial gate. A single origin point splits into two, oscillates to form a third, and projects outward into 7 parallel waveforms. Phase 2 creates the initial binary polarity. This separation establishes the permanent baseline tension between the light field's structural constraints and the sound field's thermodynamic flow. Phase 3 introduces triadic oscillation. The system cannot remain static, so it stabilizes by perpetually cycling information back and forth through a 3-stage mediation process between the poles. Finally, Phase 7 represents quantized resolution. The oscillation resolves into exactly 7 discrete, stable eigenstates, distinct energy levels that categorize every possible outcome in the physical system. We see macro-scale proof of this split when we look at data from the Hubble Space Telescope and confront the Hubble tension. The Hubble tension is an unresolved discrepancy in astrophysics, where the universe expands at 2 different incompatible rates depending on the measurement. This is not a measurement error. It is empirical evidence of 2 distinct expansion rates reflecting the separate light and sound regimes. The 2-3-7 operator is the absolute invariant condition required to translate unmanifested potential into a stable, measurable physical universe. The 2-3-7 gate feeds directly into nested execution cycles, powered by a 3-6-9 oscillation protocol. This specific numerical architecture was famously recognized by pioneer physicists, most notably Nikola Tesla, as the underlying frequency of physical manifestation. In this diagram, we isolate the light field's internal geometry. This blue triangular structure represents the state computation engine. Tracing the wave-to-particle vector begins at node 3, the state of pure superposition and potential. The signal flows downward into node 6, the point of interaction with the buffer interface. The cycle terminates at node 9. Here, quantum indeterminacy collapses, locking into a localized, stable particle form. But the form is temporary. The system immediately traces a reverse disintegration vector, where energy stored in that form is released back into the field. The light field continuously calculates reality by collapsing infinite possibilities into singular temporary points of action. This adjacent orange structure diagrams the sound field's internal loop. This is the structure stabilization engine, tasked with handling everything the light field generates. Following the source-to-vibration vector, Note 3 introduces acoustic compression into the system. This vibration flows into Note 6, which represents the physical medium itself. At Note 9, dynamic thermodynamic action stabilizes. It locks into a continuous, looping standing wave pattern. From here, the cycle moves through the entropy to silence vector. In this physical model, silence at Node 0 does not mean nothingness. It is the point where thermodynamic entropy dissipates, leaving behind pure, permanent stored information, what we recognize as memory. Without the sound field's capacity to lock dynamic action into irreversible thermodynamic memory, the universe's information would evaporate instantaneously. These two engines do not run in isolation. When the light and sound triads slide together horizontally, their central 6 nodes perfectly overlap, forming a complex interlocking geometric mandala. This overlapping center is the true quantum classical boundary, known as the interaction Hamiltonian. A Hamiltonian is an operator in quantum mechanics, corresponding to the total energy of a system, dictating exactly how these two fields exchange information. This creates the switch effect. The physical state collapse from the light field feeds directly into the memory storage point of the sound field. Physical state collapse literally becomes stored thermodynamic memory. On the return path, sound's stored memory is routed back up to regenerate the light wave. Information re-enters reality as a new potential field, causing the entire system to pulse in a continuous, infinite figure-8 flow. This bidirectional flow resolves the two solutions to James Clerk Maxwell's wave equations. Maxwell established the foundation of classical electrodynamics, predicting both retarded waves that move forward in time and advanced waves that move backward. Conventional physics often discards that advanced wave, but the Wheeler-Feynman absorber theory, developed by Richard Feynman and John Wheeler, argues that the future boundary pulls energy backward through time, just as the past source pushes it forward. This explicitly validates the loop architecture of the dual caustic framework. State collapse and memory generation are not distinct, isolated events. They are a singular, continuous exchange forming a self-regenerating loop. Here we see the formal schematic of the dual caustic universe. The geometry on the top left, labeled the light buffer, alongside the Angelner node, corresponds precisely to the quantum state computation engine. Conversely, the sound buffer on the bottom left and the Earth dark section dictate acoustic resonance and the forward march of thermodynamic time. Bridging them is the Hubble tension buffer, anchored at node 103. This is the Earth analog, the literal decoherence interface where life, decision-making, and physical measurement actually occur. This singular topological map unites quantum indeterminacy and classical thermodynamics into one mathematically closed, perfectly functioning system. This architecture is entirely scale invariant. The exact same processing gate and feedback loop govern the vibration of subatomic orbitals, biological cells, and the cosmological web. Because of this perpetual exchange, the dual caustic framework enforces a profound physical truth. In this universe, absolutely nothing is ever destroyed or permanently lost. Light computes reality, sound stabilizes it, and the buffer acts as the eternal witness, maintaining an unending, perfectly conserved loop of emergence, collapse, and return.